Hey, it's George Stroumboulopoulos. We love hip hop.
Hey,
it's George Stroumboulopoulos. We love hip hop.
and you got the mic going on too.
Blessed.
This is my lab. This is where I make records, but make my radio show. So I got all my records behind me. I've got hard drives in my Roland 808 over here. So I got my DJ 808, the mixers. I got all. This is my spot.
Nice.
That's your studio. Okay.
Nice. So we got George.
Yeah, I have to apologize also for the other day when I seen you. I was a little starstruck. I won't lie.
No, I appreciate. You know what the problem is sometimes I get requests and I mean to do it, and then my brain, I get caught up in something else and I forget to get back at somebody. So
yeah,
it was just like a sign from the city that said, no, do this.
Yeah, like it was just because we were walking and I was admiring your jacket from a distance, and then I was like, yo, I'm not gonna yell at like, yo, sick jacket, bro. And then I just waited, we passed, and then I was like, oh my god, yo. And yeah, I got tongue tied for a second, but thank you, I appreciate this a lot.
My pleasure. That jacket I was wearing was a 36 Chambers jacket from the RZA.
Yeah. Sick, fire. Tell you, in person, fire.
Thank you.
So, okay, let's jump in even from, because we're going to be going all over the place. I feel like with you, you've done so many interviews, like where people have interviewed you as well, that like your whole history as far as where you grew up, all that type of stuff has already been documented, right? But like stuff like Hercs scene that, you know, you're mentioning that you got the jacket from RZA. Can you, let's dive in from there. Tell us a RZA story. How did that even happen where you got this jacket from RZA?
You know, what it was is, so I first met the RZA when he put out that Bobby Digital record. An interview with him 100 years ago. This was MuchMusic, went on to when I did the talk show. Then he came on the Red Chair talk show again, the one that I did at CBC. And we talked about ODB, and we just we reminisced a little bit. So we were friendly with each other, but we didn't really know each other. Right?
Yeah.
As time went on, we had people in common. So one day, one of my business partners and one of my best friends just said, we were in Austin for South by Southwest. He said, I have to have dinner tonight. Can you join me? I said, sure. And then RZA showed up. So I got to meet RZA again, and this guy, Mustafa. So Mustafa is my connect to him. And so just not that, then every now and then he just reached out going, hey, I got this new thing. Do you want to try it? And then they tweeted out the bank, you know. So Wu-Tang has done so much great work in Canada. And Canada loves Wu-Tang. Almost
we love it.
Do in the States, right?
Yeah.
Like
yeah, we love Wu-Tang.
Yep. And so that's just kind of how I got to know him. I come from I'm an old man, so I was there when hip hop started, right? Mm-hmm. So like I'm 47 and I lived in Jane and Wilson, Jane and Finch, Rexdale, and Malton. So where I grew up, I lived on Chalk Farm. And so when hip hop was starting, it was just because there was always guys in my neighborhood who had a cousin in Philadelphia or New York. So tapes were coming up.
Yeah,
that's how I heard it, right? And I didn't, in the very beginning, I was listening to a lot of really heavy punk and metal. So I wasn't, when I heard anything that sounded like a dance record, I wasn't that into it. Now I am. But when I was like 8, 9, 10, I didn't really care about dance music. But then at 11, 12, Public Enemy drops, and then KRS-One and Scott LaRock, then all of a sudden I'm all in, right? And so I was able to, you know, look like me and interview rock bands and metal bands, but also when I would interview a hip hop band, a hip hop artist, especially in radio at Much, I think the artist realized that I cared so much about the genre because I grew up around it and I loved it so much. And that's how I kind of built those relationships. And that's how I got to know the RZA and other artists like that. And every now and then, you know, I'll catch up with Chef and Ghostface, which is always, you know, because Raekwon to me is, you know, just another level.
Yeah.
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 It's funny you said Chalk Farm because I grew up at Jane and Falstaff, which is like literally blocks away from Chalk Farm.
Yeah.
Right. So that's crazy. I'm not as old as you. I'm I just turned 41 the other day, so I'm in the same bracket as you almost. But you know, like Chalk Farm, Falstaff, right there.
Right Jane there. I lived on Matson Road, which is right behind the North York Sheridan Mall, just before. My mom, when I was going down the wrong path, she kept trying to drag me to the big church, which was just by Falstaff.
Yeah. On the top of the hill?
No, or
St. Philip Neri you're talking about on Beverly Street.
So St. Philip Neri is actually where I got my where my best friend got married. That's where my mom and I used to go all the time. But then the joke in my family is we used to be Catholic, and then my mom found God because she's evangelical, hardcore Christian. So there's not the prayer palace, but whatever that one is, just
yeah.
That's fun.
I know you're talking. Okay, yes. It's crazy. It's such a small world.
Totally
Crazy.
How old were you when you started as like a NBA reporter?
I was 20. What was the first year of Raptors? Whatever that year is. So the year before,
I think it was.
Yes,
93, 94.
I was 22, but prior to that, I was doing sports updates on the Fan. I talked to the sports station in Toronto. So I was covering all the sports at that time, including the NBA. But when the Raptors first came and they were playing out of the Sky Dome, so I guess it was 22, that's when I started to become an NBA reporter.
Yeah. How did you get that job?
So I was working at this radio station, and this was so funny, right? When the Raptors came, because as you know, I don't need to tell you guys this. This is a white, kind of racist hockey baseball city, CFL city, right? And in a lot of sports media, as we saw today when that story popped out from Hal Johnson from Body Break, which was
my goodness.
But not
put out
Body Break.
TSM put out a statement quick. Hey, we didn't think we were racist in '88, but sorry. Like, they put out a statement quick.
So because they knew that this was bad.
Right.
So when the Raptors first came out, they didn't have that many people who really wanted to cover it at the radio station. So there was me and this guy called Elliot Friedman. Elliot had a little bit more experience than me. So I gave him the Raptor job, but I was the only other real ball fan who was still new in the career there. So they gave me the second job, but it was the better job in my mind, was I had the visiting dressing room. So
oh my goodness.
Pippen, Barkley, Stockton, Malone, Thunder Dan, like Kendall Gill, Clyde the Glide, Mitch Richmond, who for a long time was the best shooting guard east or west of Chicago. So I was in there in that hot point where the 50 best were playing.
Oh my goodness.
It was just because I loved it so much.
Some of the memories you must have.
My first ever one-on-one interview I ever did was with Scottie Pippen. My whole interview started.
Wow.
Yep.
That's huge. That's humongous.
I love it. I love basketball so much. And I love the culture. Like I love the way that they understand that the athletes are superstars and that music plays a role and that I love hockey so much, but the thing that I hate about hockey and hockey culture is the same thing I hate about most sports culture is there's the real division between the personality and the person you see on the playing field or the court or the ice. Whereas in the NBA, LeBron will call the president a clown. Like a hockey player took the killing of George Floyd before he said anything of note. You know what I'm saying? Like and I used to fight against that in hockey all the time. And but in basketball, it was never like that. So I liked the experience better and covering it.
So I got a quick question. What's your take on what's going on right now with what's going on? Like some of the players don't want to come back because of they feel like it's gonna take away attention from the Black Lives Matter and what's really going on.
I get it.
Dwight Howard.
Yeah, I get it. You know the phrase that we always talk about. We all talk about is don't take up space when you don't need to take up space, right? And I get it. NBA is different though in a way because the NBA is really a sign in a lot of ways and kind of a hallmark of African American athletes' success. And that if they went out there and had a Black Lives Matter jersey, like that would carry. So I understand why people would say you could do something with that platform, but I would never tell a player how he should feel if they think it's going to take away coverage and go for it. And maybe he's right because circuses, right? Pro sports, corporate sponsorship, it's just a circus to keep us all distracted from what's really going on anyway.
Yep.
So maybe we don't come back and we don't have something to watch 4 nights a week when we're forced to watch the news. So maybe there's something to be said there. I can see that. I mean, I miss the games, of course, but we could all
We got enough games we could watch in the tuck. Like we can just watch. Like me personally, I can just watch this championship Raptors series for the next 10 years. So I've been a fan of the Raptors way longer than they've had a championship. So just stretch it out as long as they can.
Dude, man, there were some lean years in those early days when we were covering them. It was some bad basketball.
16, 20 win seasons. Do you remember the commentary line? They beat Michael Jordan. The Raptors beat the Bulls. That was the tagline. They beat Michael Jordan.
And remember, there was 2 games of note. There was that game which was December. It was a warm December day. I remember that game clearly. The other one was when the Lake Show came to town, and it was Kobe and Shaq, and they were rolling, and Damon Stoudemire hit a triple-double, and we beat the Lake Show at Skydome. Those were the two games that were all we had to hold on to until we got Vince. You know, all we had to hold on to.
So Vince Sanity came.
That's right.
Sanity.
So true. It's so true. Vince Sanity. He took over the city.
Oh my! It was everything.
Air Carter Center, eh? Remember that. Air Carter Center, not Air Canada Center.
It was the best. Oh, Savvy just popped up.
Yeah,
Oh,
Savvy the Ghost.
good.
Oh my gosh!
Another
I just
one of
came
our hosts
from
just
work.
popped
You guys
in.
already started this. This is bad.
Sorry.
Hey,
Hey, Savvy.
Did you intro our host, our guest, by the way?
Yeah, she did intro our goals. He did. He's like, oh yeah, that's Savvy right there. Yeah.
No, actually, I didn't intro the guest. Actually,
Our guest. He didn't intro the guest
I'm not
either.
yet. I'm not yet.
we just jumped into the conversation. For the people who are just
I
tuning
know,
in
eh?
now, we have George Stroumboulopoulos in the building.
Life. You know,
Right.
it's really hard on somebody.
Right.
You know, how do you keep that, or do you keep?
I was like thinking about this earlier, like, let me land this, right?
Like I said, when I seen him on the street, I was like, Strombo.
Jumbo.
I was like all over the place. But he knew it was like, it's innocent. Like, it was like starstruck, I'd be honest with you.
oh man, I'm really grateful. Like I said, that you stopped me because I didn't want to miss doing this. And especially
All the fates aligned.
yeah, it did. And I was working on I was working with a producer who you saw me walking with. Her and I used to do the old talk show together, but we also did the new music on MuchMusic together.
Okay.
So it was a lot of history for me and her walking down the street, just talking about the project and the stuff that we've done.
Yeah, also, I didn't want to interrupt what was going on there, right? That's why I was quick. Boom, boom, you know. I appreciate the time, though. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
There was even like when we were talking about basketball and we were talking about like some of the racial aspects, something popped into my mind, or one of these questions here about Kelowna, BC. Right? I was watching an interview with a young gentleman who was mentioning how you had to use your ethnic name over there, or you had to not use your ethnic name.
I was actually told by somebody at the radio station, because my name is Insane, and when I went out there, and then when you're in college for radio, everybody tells you need a fake name, radio name. So from the very beginning, and they certainly, when you have a name like mine, encouraged it. I didn't want to change my name, but I understood. I was 19, 20 years old. I thought, I guess this is what I got to do. So I get to the radio station, and somebody at the radio station actually said to me, that ethnic thing might fly in Toronto, but it's not going to work here in Kelowna. And I remember thinking,
Wow.
not long for this place. So I tried to pull a fast on them. So I changed my name to George Jefferson. That's true. I thought I was going to go on as George Jefferson because I thought that'd be my way of getting them. But they knew who Jefferson was, so they wouldn't let me do that. And they just started calling me by my initials until they came back to Toronto. And I worked for a guy called Bob Makowitz, who had a very ethnic name. And he's like, keep your name. Like your name.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? I never thought much about it until maybe 5-6 years ago. So I've been on TV for a long time, and I was walking down the street, and this elderly Greek guy in a motorized wheelchair stopped me, and he said, "I need to tell you something." And then he started to cry. He said, "You kept your name, and I know to your generation it doesn't carry the weight that it did to us, but when we as grown-ups turned on television and saw your name on TV," and then he's crying. He's like, "It matters so much for us that we didn't have to anglicize our name." It was really sweet. Then I was like, "Oh, I guess."
Goosebumps.
Yeah, it was like, I guess it does matter, and also it's my name, and I don't like it when he's like, I just don't like when everybody tries to make everything beige, and it's like boring. It's also, it's usually propagated by people who don't understand this city. And if you I grew up, like I said, in the neighborhoods I grew up in. So I was first generation immigrant. Most of my family are first generation Canadians. It was a Jamaican, Trini, Italian, Indian, Pakistani, Sri Lankan. So I only grew up around the Toronto that I grew up around. So when I actually went to radio college, that's when I was surprised. I was like, oh, shit, this isn't the country that I think, right. I used to think Canada was the thing they told us it was. So I got around it and went, oh, this ain't the country that they're telling us it is. And Toronto, on the west side, it's like, we're a different place.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Like so I moved from like that area, the south side of Jane Street, as they refer to it. My mom would always say, anytime she was heading up, yo, I'm heading up north. I'm heading up north. I'm heading up north. Like it's a big trip. Get ready. No, but it's only like a 45-minute bus ride. But it's just like, yeah, I'm heading up north. But really, you're only going to Jane and Wilson. But to this day, my mom still put like, I'm heading north. Where are you going? You're going to the north? Yeah. It's just, this is inbred in certain people, the way it is in the city, right?
And that was so different from what I became aware of, especially when I got to MuchMusic, and then I started traveling across the country, and then because it's one thing to go from where we're from to downtown, and then you go across the country and you're like, holy shit, this is a whole different country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
A whole different country. I like the fact that I know it and that I speak out about it and that people are mad at me for it, because it's like, fuck it, people got to learn. Can we swear on this, by the way?
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's going on YouTube, but like, you know, it's like whatever. You know what I'm saying?
The comments, man. When you did your top 6 underground rap in Toronto, the comments.
Oh, you saw that already?
Yeah. Oh, the comments.
Yeah. Comment gang.
They come.
Comment gang.
Yep.
They have they come. They give their opinion. They let their opinion known.
What do you call
let
it?
it be known.
Comment gang? Is that what you call them?
Yeah,
comment
comment
gang.
Yeah, it's because, you know, our audience is like, the core audience is like 90% GTA based.
I love it.
Right?
Love it.
So like people see us in the street and they're like, hey, yo, we love hip hop. We love hip hop. Right? But even for you, and there's a quote that I have here, in Canada, you're not famous. You just have a profile.
Yeah, because you know what? In Canada, like Drake's famous and the Prime Minister's famous, and like a lot of people know who I am, and I've been around long enough. But people don't treat me like I'm famous. They just treat me like they knew me and I think this comes back to the MuchMusic thing. Mm-hmm. When you're on MuchMusic growing up, where people grow up watching you, it's the only place pre-YouTube where you were able to be that kind of host, where you would talk about the things you cared about, you interviewed and you connected people. That people feel like they grew up with me, right? And I think that's different than, because I was never the guy. I never pretended that I wrote the record. Yeah. Right. And the guy that wrote the record, the girl that wrote the record, they're the stars, right? I'm just like the person who connects you to that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to steal that though. I like that profile over famous idea. I love it.
And
I love it.
You know, part of the reason is, yeah, technically it is fame, right? Technically it is fame. But I think it's really important, especially as you get older, don't put that language in your subconscious. Don't even let your subconscious hear you say shit that you know can't be good for you in the long run.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
that Friday.
Pinterest board that.
Yeah. Yeah. Like shit like, you don't know who I am. Don't you know who I am? If that ever comes out of your mouth, somebody's punch you right in the side of the jaw. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Good punch me like that. My preference is that they don't know who I am. If you're in a situation where you have to say that, it's better off if they don't know who you are.
Exactly. 100%. You know, this guy had the nerve to tell me I don't know who he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's been times where someone has tried to pick a fight with me and they'll be like, I know who you are. And I'll say, no, you don't know me. Like, I'm not afraid to fight. You don't know me. You know who I am.
Oh, you know my TV personality.
Yeah, you only know the part like 27 and on. You know 27.
Right.
This guy doesn't give a shit, you know?
Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Who, like, for the amount of people that you've interviewed for MuchMusic, right? And you're clearly a music fan, like a music head, not just like one genre. Like you love punk, you love hip hop. Who have you ever fanned out about?
When the first time I met KRS-One, because I was we went up to 106 and Park. He was just doing BET, so we went up to 106 and Park, and he wanted to take us on a tour of 106 North into Harlem, a walking tour. And because I was like that guy to be, and I think punk was because punk was so important to me. I liked angry music, and I liked the music that bordered on militant, by any means and all means necessary. I liked that, all resonated with me, and the BDP stuff. So he kind of spoke to that punk part of me. So when I went to go, me and my friend Darby, we went up to BET, and KRS-One comes out, and we were kind of like, oh right, shit, right. And he was exactly who I wanted him to be. You know, I met Patti Smith. I was pretty impressed by her. Ghost drummer from the Clash, big influence on me. In this house here, Lee Scratch Perry came over.
Nice.
He got whacked out, and we did this weird, amazing interview. But he had never played an Ableton push, so I had to push 2 years. So here I'm watching the great Lee Scratch Perry, learning to make beats on my push. Like that made me go, that's
wow. That's a moment.
It was a moment. But the first time I met KRS-One, I just saw KRS-One play in LA at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and it was just as strong. You know, I'll always remember this thing Chuck D said. People can talk about top fives or whatever. Everybody can do that. He said, no MC in history can change the temperature of a room like KRS-One. Like new or old, nobody can go into a room and the temperature changes when he starts. And
so
that's
true.
KRS-One. So that still affects me whenever I see him.
Nice.
Yeah, no, KRS. But you've interviewed a lot of people, like politicians, like former presidents, and like, what was Hillary Clinton like?
The case is easier made today because if you look at where a lot of this conflict that we are...
It was strange because the way it works she was very nice, right? Obviously, and she was really nice in that scenario. This was when she walks down the hallway. The Secret Service make you turn your back to her, so you have to face the wall.
Wow!
Right?
Wow!
And so that automatically, I didn't like that.
No, I wouldn't like that either.
But at the same time, I was like, okay, Secretary of State, whatever, let's do this. But we sat down, and what I liked about her was she was honest about the shit her and Bill got wrong, right? And how she's learned a lot. Now, history has taught us since then, she probably hasn't learned that enough. But at the time she was presenting, right? But she was really smart. She was really fun. She was way warmer than you normally see, at least back then. Like, people thought she would be pretty rigid, but she was really comfortable around us, and she's so smart, man. Hillary Clinton is so smart, but, you know, she talked, because I was kind of giving her a slightly hard time about the genocide when it was happening. Clinton didn't do much. She was trying to convince him to do something, you know. So, and I was also trying to create this space where I didn't want to interview her just based on her first lady thing, because she has her own identity with her own.
Yeah.
Most experienced person, really, in politics in a lot of ways. But a lot of respect as well, because the Bill Clinton thing, I didn't want to harp just on that. But she was pretty powerful, man. She was pretty powerful.
Yeah. That's
okay, one more quick question that still ties to that question. Who was the better interview, Bill or Hillary?
You know what? I never interviewed Bill, but I'll tell you this. I interviewed Sarah Palin.
Okay.
Palin.
Yeah, I seen the Sarah Palin. I seen the clip for Sarah Palin.
Wow.
I was doing my research.
Sarah was chill. Like, I get her. I don't agree with anything she stands for the most part, but I get Sarah. Sarah reminded me of somebody who had all the odds stacked against her in her space, and somehow went on, became a vice president candidate. Right? She did a lot. She reminded me in a way, not of my mother politically, but if my mom says, "Hey, I need to move a mattress. Can you come help me?" I'll say, "Sure." And if I'm not out there in a minute, it's already on the van. My mom just gets stuff done. Sarah Palin kind of reminded me of that at the time. And at the end, she looked at me and she just said, "How do you like some of them non-answers?" I respected her.
A little bit of humor.
Crash to come at me like that. Yeah, I respected that.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
I have a quick question, just to rewind, because we were just talking about MuchMusic. Now, I know it wasn't your show and all, but I know you had to attend this party. And I'd like to know if you have an electric circus story that you want to tell us.
Every single Friday, you go to work in the morning, and there would be a thing called Fashion Friday on breakfast television. So
Yes.
you would enter the building through the the front doors on Queen Street.
Yeah.
And then right there to the left was Fashion Friday. So you'd walk in and there's this crazy fashion show going on, right, on TV. So that's how your day starts. And then I go to work, and we're working, we're on TV, we're doing all these other shows, we're recording, we're in and out, and then usually I finish my show, I think it's about 8:45 on Friday nights. About 13 hours you were in the building. You forget that just outside in the lobby is this rager.
Yeah.
Right? So I would get ready to finish my show. Rick Campanelli was doing that show, so Rick and I would catch up. We'd say goodbye. I'd walk out the door and smoke machines and lights and dancing, and I'm just like, holy fuck, where do I work, right? So I would just I'd stop for a bit, and then I would take off and go out. That's what I would do. It was so much fun, and it went through different phases, of course, because dance music had changed over the years. But there was a time that it was so, and what was so dope about it too was back then, it was really gay positive, and drag positive.
Mm-hmm.
Early.
Yes.
Early. Yep.
It was.
Mm-hmm. Early.
It was.
Yep. And you look back in time and go, they knew what they were doing. Like they were. I think
that's what, sorry to cut you off, but I think that's what the electric was in the circus. Was that type of stuff. Like, no, I'm being honest. Because
I like how you flipped it, though. I like
that. That's cool.
It was really important, man. I mean, it was, first of all, if Electric Circus, you would remember, it wasn't just white people.
Nope.
No.
It wasn't just white and black.
Everybody.
Music was fun. It was diverse. It was gender diverse as well. And then it was gay positive and drag positive. So you look around and go, Electric Circus doesn't get nearly the respect it ought to.
Word.
Through the rear view mirror of like, man,
it doesn't.
Yeah.
You're right.
Friday night in your fucking office, it's just it was incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
People outside trying to get in.
Yep.
Everything. Like lineups like it's a real club. Like it's being broadcast on television. Bonus. So you can tell your friends, hey, I was at Electric Circus.
Yep.
No, you weren't. Well, look there, right there. Right?
You could see like little kids there, maybe 12, standing outside with their moms and dads, and their moms were like, okay, we got to go. But the kids were staring through the window, and you could see that was one of the first parts in their life where that generation gap was starting, right?
Yeah.
Parents wouldn't feel comfortable there, but this is, because kids are cool early now, but 12-year-olds today look like 30-year-olds on Real Housewives, whereas 12-year-olds back then looked like 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
And see that gap starting to happen. It was pretty powerful. Electric Circus was amazing.
I was definitely that kid watching Electric Circus from the TV screen. Talking about mom talking about turn it off, it's too loud, and I'm like, bro, it's almost finished. It's only like an hour. Just let me watch it. Come on, mom, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to know if you had a wild story about Electric Circus. I figured it would have been wild back then. So
was, what, the hallways, glitter everywhere. Like you walk out, it was honestly machines and glitter on you. And you would start, like, you'd leave the office, that first door you'd open at the end of a day, and the 25 steps to get to Queen Street.
Yeah.
You're fabulous all of a sudden. You're completely reborn. You got tons of energy, you're glitter, and you're ready for the night. Like it was an amazing 25 steps.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You left MuchMusic after a while, and you went on to do your own show with CBC, The Hour.
Everybody say hello to Spike Lee.
Can you tell us about that transition? Like, was it a scary time, or was it like, let's just go?
It's a good question. I didn't want to do it. So when CBC offered me a show, I turned them down.
Oh.
They offered me, CBC offered me they wanted me to see if I'd be a host of a news show. I said no, it wasn't the right fit. Then they asked me to host a show, which ended up being an arts and culture show. And I said no. And they couldn't really understand why I said no. And I said, look, I host the new music. I got to be honest with you. Like, I think that's the best music show in the world. So I'm not going to come over here. And you guys aren't going to appreciate the music that I want to. No. So I turned them down. So then they came to me and offered me this new show, but they didn't have a show. It was just an idea. And I just didn't trust them. That's the truth. I turned them down a few times to trust them. I didn't think they would believe in what I didn't trust that they had the stomach to do what they said they wanted to do. Right. Also, I honestly, to be honest with you, naively thought, I'm just going to stay at MuchMusic for my whole career because this is really important stuff and I really like this. And then eventually I was, I'd met them a couple times. I told my manager, I said, you know what, we're going to pass. I'm not going to do it. And then I was, back to this thing we were talking about with Rwanda. So Darfur in Sudan was heating up and the genocide was going, right? So I bumped into a friend of mine who is the lead singer of a band called Our Lady Peace. And he said, have you followed the news? He said, I have. And he said, we got to go. Because we had both said, because we were too young to have known about Rwanda. But we had said, if this had ever happened again, we were going to go and we were going to go do whatever we could. So we found another guy who said he met these rich people who wanted to help in Darfur and didn't trust the traditional charities. So they didn't know where to spend the money. But because I was an interviewer at Much, and this guy was an artist, they said, and this other guy worked at an NGO, they said, would you go and just interview people and investigate what's going on and come back and tell us where the area of greatest need is? So I said, hell yeah, I'm going. So Rain and I, we get on the plane and we're about to fly to Sudan. And we know what's coming. We know it's going to be pretty gnarly, but we're ready to go. And I'm sitting on the runway in the airplane, and I look out the window. This is I'm sorry for the long story, but this is the truth.
No.
The longer the better.
We like details.
There you go. I see a forklift driver drive by out the window, and he's wearing a vest that says BAX, which is Burlington Air Express. It's a job I used to have when I used to drive a forklift at Pearson Airport when I was living in Malton. So I looked out at the guy, and I was like, oh man, that's me. That's me if I didn't get lucky, right? If I didn't get lucky in media, people didn't believe in me who should have and all that. And I looked over at Rain, and I said, check this out. So CBC offered me this show, but I turned them down. And he said, what is it? And I told him, I said, they want to create like some kind of talk show around me on news. They said, I don't have to change. But I think I turned him down. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, it's not going to work. Like, it'll never work. And then he paused and said, but you know what? If it does, like it won't. But if it does, you'll have done something no one's ever been able to do in Canada before. Right? He goes, and that's like pulling the sword from the stone if you can do it. And I looked at him and I went, right. So I texted my manager and I said, all right, we're going to quit MuchMusic. We're going to take the CBC job. I'm going to Africa. And I clicked send. And I turned my phone off because we flew. So 2 days later, he catches me on my phone. And honestly, we're in the middle. We're in the border of Darfur and Chad in a town called Janina. He's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. He's like, cool, let's do it. And that's how it happened. That's seriously how that whole talk started. So it wasn't transition. I didn't feel like it's me because I felt like it was an extension of the shit that I believed in. Bringing music to people and politics to people and kind of bridging the gap. And that was what I wanted to do. And there was this one kid and father, the two of them came to see the show once. And he said that the dad said to the kid, hey, sit down and watch this guy tell the news. He wanted to get his kid interested in news. He said, watch this guy do the news. I had a nose ring, right? I had a studded belt. And the kid said, oh, that guy? And he pulled out a VHS tape of one. He's like, that's the punk show that you used to not let me watch. That's the same guy. Like,
he's probably waiting for that day.
Totally. That was like, that's why I cared. That's why I did it. But I didn't think it was going to work. It was only an 18-month contract. I thought it was going to blow up. But we did it for 10 years, and I've been at that network for 15 years now.
That's awesome.
Off of a decision like that, send and turn off your phone.
I'm really thinking about it. I was like, honestly, the two people that I remember the most, honestly, and I had them both on tape, were Master T and you.
Tony's the best.
Like, literally. Like, those are, like, and that's what I remember. You said VHS tape, and I was like, I had all these shows recorded also.
Amazing.
Hey, remember, we have to run home to record Rap City on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesday night, I mean. You have to run home, get the recorder, just put the tape.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But definitely when you started doing the news at CBC, that definitely got a lot of people interested in it, because it was like before we were watching the news, and we're watching Mitsumishi, even though she's amazing. I think she's great, but you get sick of listening to her say the same things in her same tone every day, and she's a grown lady that you don't think that you're ever going to amount to see somebody that's like, I go to school with this person, like this person dresses like somebody that I go to school with, and I can relate to this person. I will definitely listen to the news all night, every night.
Yeah.
Right? Michi is like queen to me. So about Michi Miso, I'd say maybe 8 years ago, I said to Michi at an event, I said, I'm telling everybody that you and I wrote a TV show where Michi and I we're ourselves, our real life people.
Mm.
But that when we were 13 years ago, Michi and I had a baby together, and so now
Amazing.
we're 13, and that's not true. But I said to her, telling people that you and I have a baby because I want to do this show with you where you're my ex and we have a kid and we're co-parenting this kid. So she said, yeah, let's do it. So we shot the trailer for it, and it's amazing. And it's Michi and I with our daughter running a music store in Toronto. Because
Oh my God.
get the
That's
credit.
I'd love to
amazing.
see that.
When is this
Right?
coming out?
You know what? So it's in development at CBC. We shot the trailer. I'm waiting to hear back. They said they want to make
Oh
it
my goodness. Please.
Amazing.
crazy.
Please.
That sounds
Please.
dope.
Because it's like-
Amazing.
She was the
Okay.
first rapper that got a deal in the States. And it was KRS-One's crew that signed her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Jamaican funk. That track was so big. I remember as a kid seeing Missy pull up in Falstaff in her Jeep. Pull up in Falstaff by the center, her and her entourage.
Nice.
With the ear, the hair, the biker hats, everything. Yo, the tights, everything. Yo, it was a spectacle to see.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Some of my fondest memories of seeing Missy pull up in Falstaff with all that Jamaican funk, all the party, everything. It's like, wow, that's royalty for
Yep.
sure.
Another hour question. Prince Charles.
My pleasure to see you. I'm delighted. Thank you. Tell me about the guiding principles of the charities when you first.
What was that interview like? Like,
My God.
Strange, man. It was strange because I'm not, you probably learned this by even just talking to me here. I'm not great with formalities. I'm pretty chill.
yeah.
And everybody's nervous because you have to do things a certain way with the royal family.
Yeah.
They told me all the protocol, and I forgot most of it, ignored the rest of it
Well, you must have broke protocol all the time.
all the time. So they have me in the house, right? And there's the piano, there's Elizabeth's piano that she plays piano on.
Well,
I'm playing piano, and this guy comes running in the room, and I was like, "Oh, sorry." He's like, "No. Everyone's too afraid to play this piano. It hasn't been played, and you play it." So I just got to sit there and play Queen Elizabeth's piano.
wow.
Charles was, there's a lot of reasons to not like the royal family. There's a lot of reasons to disrespect kings and queens because they have caused carnage across the world. So I got
Sure.
no time for it.
Yeah.
But he has a lot of position of power and influence, and he does an enormous amount of great charity work. And I respect his charity work because he does it in really proactive, profound ways. And that doesn't really get talked about here.
Mm-hmm.
In the UK, people know he does good work. But again, royal family colonizers aside, which is all wrong and shouldn't be ignored, the work he does today with the charity stuff, I really respect it. So just to go talk and try to understand where that came from in him, I really liked it. I got him laughing. We were having a good time. But people gave me so much shit in my comment section because I didn't shave to meet him. They're like, you should shave to meet the royal family. And I was like, yo, my grandma is fucking royal family, right?
Straight.
Even for anybody else's uncle, right? This is like, but they were so mad at me for that.
That's crazy.
Was there one thing that you did, like protocol wise, forget the comment gang, but protocol wise, was there like one thing that they were like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that other than playing the piano?
You're supposed to let them come up to you, ask you a question. They extend their hand to shake your hand. So I'm standing there, and Camilla Parker Bowles, so Prince Charles' wife, and there's a procession line. So I'm just standing there, and it's so weird because I know it sounds crazy to tell the story, but it's weird because to walk to the room where I was going to meet them, you walk past this gigantic fireplace which has A carved in it on one side and then only H at the other side because it was where Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn lived, and they started together when they started building the fireplace, but by the time they finished the fireplace, she was dead. He killed her. So it's a weird room, right? So you walk around.
Wow.
Carmen here, but so I'm standing in this room. I got all these weapons, swords around, and then she walks up to me, and I just go I extend and shake my hand because I forget, right? And then she's stunned. She shakes my hand, and I looked at her, and I wasn't supposed to ask her questions, but I just said, "You're going to Canada?" She said, "I am." I said, "Busy?" She goes, "It's really busy." And she told me her schedule. I said to her, "There's no way you can be present when you're doing that." I said, "There's no way that you can go to a country and meet people and it not be anything other than a handshake. And how are you going to learn anything?" And she said to me, "I know, right? Talk to my husband about that."
Talk to my people.
Yeah, her husband, not her husband, but
In the interview.
with this was just we weren't even doing it.
But
Right?
she's
Yeah.
giving you tips.
That's right. Well, then her people look at me and go,
Crazy.
hey, wait. I just go, hold a second. You married him. I'm not telling him anything, right?
Yeah.
So they were, but I think if you're going to invite me to the house, this is what you're going to get. And I think they realized that pretty quickly. But yeah, aside from the awfulness of the royal family colonizing history, I liked the charity work a lot. And so once you get past that, I think he opened up a little bit. He was very comfortable. I think that's the only Canadian TV interview he did in maybe ever 30, 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I want another one
with you. Yo,
Sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah.
Another one with him. I have new thoughts now.
Oh.
Nice.
You might have to DM him now.
I know. Eh? He's probably into
Would you want to interview him over Harry?
Yeah, I do, because Harry, they don't want to be a part of this game. They made the contract to get out, so go get it. Also, that's the most tough situation. There's that. There's your mother and the relationship with your father, and then your father has this other woman. Your mother had this other man, and then your mother dies publicly, and you're a kid. So they're growing up under this, even though there's money. That's not good. That's not a good scenario for kids to grow up in a lot of respect.
nothing normal there.
A lot of dysfunction. Yeah.
Check out. But Prince Charles is going to be the king, right?
Yeah, and think about it. They're also in line for the throne, so their mind is messed up.
William.
And then, no, but all of them, like even Henry, like even
Harry's,
after William, after Harry,
like,
sorry, yeah, he's like 12th now because of all the kids. But I'm saying like. That's what it is. Like, yeah, his brother probably's like, yeah, I'm gonna be the king one day. You have to wait. Ha ha ha. They probably have their jokes amongst themselves or that animosity. But yeah, their dad's really next in line to be king, right?
The thing with them is that they're very strict about how you can talk to them and how you can interview them. But I want to talk to him about what he thinks about the history of royal families and colonization. Like, I think it's because he's a smart guy, and he's also a pretty compassionate person. So look, he's imperfect. Everybody is, but I'm really curious about what his thoughts are on colonization and the subject. I hear those guys talk about that for a reason.
That would be interesting.
Holler at Strobo.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll text him. I can't text him now.
Nice.
You got
Prince
that
type
Charles
of links
in the Rolodex.
on the DMs. Just slide in the DM.
It's funny. There's only one royal family member I DM, but they're from another country. And one day I was, just because I met them, I didn't even know they were royal family. I met them at just some thing, and they were cool. Her and her husband, they were cool. And then it was awkward but cool. And then they invited me to go, my husband's got a movie being made about his grandfather, about how this country, stood up against the Nazis. I was like, oh, you were against the Nazis? That's a good side, cool. And then come see the movie. I went, sure. So she just sent me a message on Twitter, DM me. So I go, because they were in Canada, so they flew to Canada. I go to the Bell Light Box. As soon as they walk in, all these people look at me dressed the way I'm dressed, going, excuse me? And I said, this is a private event. I went, oh, no, I know. Right? Yeah, I was invited. Oh, who invited you? Oh, well, the Crown Princess and the Crown Prince. And they went, what? But yeah. Okay, but you need tickets. I said, actually, I don't have tickets because they just told me to show up. And so they were going to escort me and my friend out, but they were very nervous. But I wasn't particularly warm to them either. I was just kind of like, oh, I know. Oh, I know. And then the Crown Prince and Crown Princess came around the corner, and everybody got really formal. And they looked at me and they went, Strombo! It was really funny.
Oh, for sure.
That sort of happened when you meet. That's the only royal family member I can DM, though. That's all I'm saying.
Look at that kind of clout right there.
Trust me. Yeah, I'm supposed to be here. I know it's formal. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I've been kicked out of a lot of rooms that I'm supposed to be in, and kicked out of a few that I shouldn't have been in. And I never. But that makes me. I just like it when people judge you by the way you know more than me. You get judged by the way you look, and you're like, well, fuck it, man. And so, let's mess with them a bit.
Yeah, no, that's classic.
Let me ask you about social media. because that's like something that has evolved while you've been in the game, right? What are your thoughts on that? Like the social media, like how that's become part of the media aspect now. Bloggers are becoming journalists. Like, what are your thoughts on that whole transition?
It's so complicated. Like I like the fact that everybody has a voice. That's great. Not everybody has the same checks and balances though, right? So if I said something online, I'm done. Somebody else says something online, they're not done because it's not even their real face. It's not even their real name, right? So I like the fact that everybody has a voice. It's also shown how much most people are the same. Because even people who don't have a traditional media outlet still act like jackasses online, right? Yeah. And some act like heroes online. So I think it's great. I think if I was to be coming up today, I mean, the thing they never train you ever in this business is how to handle the public, how to handle your fame or your profile. You never learn that. Coming up now in the era of social media, you got to just like turn your comments off. You can't read what people say. In the old days at Much, we'd walk down the street and people would just yell horrible shit at us, right? Which they would do. Yeah. But at least they have to say it to your face.
What's the worst thing somebody said to you?
I mean, they would through all. I mean, it wasn't even bad stuff because nothing bugged me. But people would just use your death threats, or they would, they'd throw. Especially because I'm straight, but I'm pro-gay and I'm pro-trans and I'm that. People would throw homophobic. Even when I was on Hockey Night in Canada, people would throw homophobic slurs at me because I had a pride flag tape on my foot, right? Yeah. Right. So the Hockey Night in Canada crowd was pretty much the same as that early crowd, but the thing is that they had to say it to your face, which I respected that more. Right? But for social media, I think it's great because no one gets away with anything anymore, and you shouldn't be able to. You shouldn't be able to. You should have the freedom of speech, but you're not, and the freedom of expression, but you're not free to not face consequences or not face challenges.
Yeah,
100.
I also think that it's in 20 years from now when there will be a better rhythm. Like we're the first group of people that have had the opportunity to reach everybody whenever we want. We're that first era, really, a few generations, but one era. So we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're just like, since we started, it was Friendster, MySpace, right? Facebook, Twitter, Vine, fucking TikTok, like Instagram. It's all kind of happened in our lifetime. It's like all the genres invented in our lifetime. And what's the next one going to look like? And who owns TikTok really? And what data are they collecting? And all that shit. People are mad at Mark Zuckerberg, and they ought to be. So I think we're just in those early. We're in that front line of this battle. Yeah. So I don't overly analyze too much about social media because I think it's so new that once we get some years and we have that bird's eye view of it, I think we're going to get a better understanding of where we're at. But I like the fact that if you fuck up for real, they will come get you.
Accountability.
Yeah, accountability is really important. I've always been grateful for it. And maybe it's because of the neighborhood I grew up in. If I said something I shouldn't have said, I got beat up. And did. Like if I badmouthed somebody, boom, I would take a beating, and I deserved it. Now I learned how not to say shit. Like, I don't get in trouble on Twitter because I know because I don't think those things that would get you in trouble. But that I think that's the first. Most people like, oh, everybody's out to get you. It's like, yeah, what the fuck are you thinking? Yeah. Like, why is it pain to say that stupid shit, right? Like, go cut this idea that people, you've heard this, they cut down the tree of their ignorance, but those roots run deep.
The roots run deep.
Yeah. People think
that's a good one.
You got to dig all those roots up. And I'm grateful that I learned good habits when I was young, so that when people fuck up on Twitter, it's like, sometimes I call people like, take that down. But no, here's what I meant. Take it down, you stupid idiot. I know what you mean. That way, take it down. Right? Leave it up, and then don't come at me to help you. Like, that's our job.
Deal with the backlash.
Guttzy.
I get that all the time, and I don't mind.
You had a question that's kind of related to what George is saying right now about one of his colleagues from MuchMusic, no?
It wasn't a colleague. It was actually an interview he did. Sebastian Batch.
I don't agree,
man. There's a lot of people went and saw Poison and Skid Row.
This is over. This.
You don't think you share the same fans?
I don't care.
Have you ever had another situation like that? I don't know if you guys know, but the man kind of got vexed at something. I guess you guys had a different opinion or something, and he kind of just said, "Yo, F it." He walked out of the interview.
Yeah, he threw me out, man. I had questioned him about.
Oh, he threw you out.
Sorry.
I got dressing room. Oh, out the door. We're right on Broadway, and it's like, what just happened? You know what's funny though is that happened, and then a week later, 8 days later, I got thrown out of a Dr. Dre Eminem press conference because I was pressing him on Suge Knight.
Yeah, but that does. So that's how does.
I don't like this guy.
I'm
I
just
do
asking
not
a
like
question.
this guy.
And
Oh.
Dre wasn't answering my question. He was speaking in code, and I wasn't having it. Yeah, I was like 27. Like I didn't fucking know. To me,
Go Canada. What?
Trust me.
Right?
difficult questions. But what I learned as I got older was still ask those questions, but don't have the interview end. Right? The art is not having an interview end. So Sebastian and Dre and Eminem kicked me out because he didn't like the way I was pressing Dre, and and I get it. I actually got physically removed from that one. Like one of the security guards, like, we got a straggler, and they picked me up. I looked around at all those record company people who let me get kicked out that way, and I looked at them, and those are the same white fuckers who are getting in trouble today for their hiring practices. So I look now, and I should burn to my memory going, all right, who did me? And those same people are still controlling it, and they're all going to get their calm down now.
Yep, they're coming. So it's coming.
Coming.
And I think you and Sebastian are cool now, right? Because I think he did come back on the hour, right?
Yeah, so after that, he threatened to beat me up a couple of times. He was way bigger.
What did you say?
Nothing. All I did was he was in a metal band. Right?
What was the argument about?
He was on Broadway, and I'd asked him if it ever felt weird to him, that here he was going from this to being on Broadway now, because that's not the path.
Mm-hmm.
He thought what I was doing was coming down and hating on him for it, but I wasn't. And then he said, "I'm in a metal band." What do you think? I'm in Poison? And I was like, "Well, yeah. I mean, I saw you play with what? Yeah." And he's like, "We saw this other band," and I said, "I know. I was at that show too. I'm a fucking fan, right?"
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get he was suspicious. I get it. And if we were to do that interview the first time again, it wouldn't go that way. But so later, I was doing the Red Chair show on CBC, that talk show, and my producer said, "Yo, Sebastian Bach wants to come on the show." And I said, "Fucking cool," because I think that I'm a grown up, and if I can't do this, then I don't deserve this position, this space, right? Came on, we got along fine. I bumped into him just before the COVID lockdown. I was in LA. We saw each other at the same party. He's great. We're totally fine now. And I recognize how I didn't do that interview right exactly. I wasn't wrong, but I done it differently.
Yeah, you notice your own flaws.
Totally. I had to interview. Somebody asked me the other day if I was going to interview a little while ago if I was going to interview Good Charlotte. I used to make fun of that band, Good Charlotte, on TV all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Right. And I said, you know what? I do want to do the interview because I have to apologize to them. And he's like, seriously? But you don't like the music? I said, it doesn't matter. I was 20-something years old. I thought I was some fucking defender of punk rock, right? I'm an idiot. I was wrong. And if I can't face them and say so. So they came to my house. We sat down to do the interview. And I said, before we go anywhere, when you were getting a lot of grief, do you remember that? And they said, yes. And I said, I was one of those guys. And I said, in fact, I might have been the loudest. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I'm not apologizing for you to forgive me. I'm not apologizing for you to make me feel better. I don't need any of that. I just need you to know, right, that if you sit across from here, I'm that guy who did that, and I was wrong. And he said, look, we all said a lot of things. I said, maybe, but this is what I said. And I'm sorry for that. And he's like, no problem at all. We are past that. And so then we had a great interview. They're fucking great guys. Yeah. But you got to own your own shit, man. And the way they were raised us on masculinity, people didn't teach us that it was okay to be wrong.
Yes.
And own your wrong. And they say it is now, but we're 40 fucking years of conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Your generation. So I always thought it was really important, especially for guys on the air and strong men on the air. Go out there and be honest and fucking own it when you're wrong. Don't ask people to make you feel better, but acknowledge your role in this.
Yeah.
Maybe your role. So that's why when Sebastian and I met again, I'm like, yeah, we fucked that up, but we're good now. You know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's great though. He's also one of the best singers who ever come out of Canada, ever. He's one of the best rock and roll singers of all time, and he's our guy, you know, from Peterborough.
Yeah.
Nice.
Savy, yeah.
Sidebar. How comfortable are you with all of these interviews being done in your house?
Yeah.
Like you've got a lot of different energy coming to your home, you know?
I'm okay with it because I am the dragon that can't be slayed, right? In that there's nothing has any power over me. I don't let trauma that's happened to me or my family or my life have power over me. I don't let, if someone comes into my house and takes some shit, okay, I don't care. It's just a thing. Here's why I started it, because it is a stupid idea to bring strangers into your home for sure. But I was walking by I walked down Yonge Street at the Eaton Center. There's like a home sense, or what I don't know what it's called, a home something that used to be a radio station I worked at called The Edge, where I broadcast from the street. Fans will come in and
oh shit, I remember that too.
Was that off a shooter?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and kids would come in to see their favorite artists, right? And I remember, again, because I was 24 at the time, but I remember all these kids that would hang around every day, and I'd say, "How come you don't go home?" And they say, "My dad and we don't get on." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Well, you stay here." So I watched this community build, and then I go to MuchMusic, and the community was real. One day, I'm walking down Yonge Street, and that radio station's gone. It's that store. I turn and I make a right onto Queen, and I'm coming down Queen, and I get in front of the MuchMusic building, and MuchMusic was basically gone. It was like some daytime. It's a daytime talk show, also important, but it was a daytime talk show. And I looked at the building, and I said out loud to myself, "You fucking people don't know how hard everybody worked to create an environment where kids all across this country felt like they were safe and they were okay." Like I was down in New Orleans in the year 2000 interviewing an African-American woman who was trans about what her experience was like in bounce music at the time. Like people weren't doing interviews like that, but MuchMusic was.
Yep.
And I was down there and I was treating Dead Prez like they were the fucking Sex Pistols, right? Like game-changing shit and punk and metal and all. So not just me, like Master T you mentioned was a god to me, and Namageni was killing it, and Rachel and Rick the Temple.
Yeah.
Rick king out there. He's the best king. And I was like, you guys don't fucking know how hard or why this matters. I remember going up to the Arctic and meeting some young Inuk kids who were in a small town in Nunavut, and they were talking to me about MuchMusic, how it brought them together. It's how they even knew who half the artists were at the time, right?
That's amazing.
I was mad at MuchMusic for fucking taking that away from me, because I knew that it mattered to a generation. And by the way, so I called a friend of mine. I said, "We're doing it at my house, and we're letting the public in." And he goes, "No, wait a minute." I said, "No, we're letting people in. People got to come and they got to see the bands that they love."
Yeah.
He says, "Why don't we rent the studio?" I said, "We could, but if I do it in my house, then I got skin in the game, and then I'm showing the audience and I'm showing the band that this matters, right? This matters. And so if you're coming to my home, bring it." And they're like, "This is crazy." My manager's like, "It's crazy." My ex-girlfriend was like, "This is crazy." And I said, "I know it's crazy, but I'm the toughest guy on the block anyway, probably." So, you know what? It's been amazing. Like it's been amazing, because we bring 100 people in here to watch Robert Plant from Led Zeppelin. Or I remember being in here the day that, because we're on hip hop, but I remember I left my gate open and there's a knock on my door, and I just kind of looked at the kitchen, and I have my front door and you have a window, and I look in and I'm like, fucking Grandmaster Flash, what the fuck?
Wow.
And so
Oh my God. Just pulled up on your house.
My house sits down, we do an interview. Mixmaster Mike comes and spins a set on my DJ on my kitchen table. And
oh my goodness.
and it wasn't like, and they were coming because I had the MuchMusic history and the radio history, so they trusted the interview. But they also started to really like the fact that it was a home and it was casual. Dude, when James Hetfield from Metallica pulled up to the house, that's when I was, back to your earlier question about when I had a moment. James Hetfield got out the Uber and I was just,
whoa.
Wow.
This is serious. Yeah.
And it all comes from that thing where, and this is where I was so fucking mad, and my friends still work there, and I don't care, I'm going to say it, and I'll stand by it. The Black Lives Matter protest, and then the next weekend where it wasn't BLM, but there was still a protest, you know, the anti-racist protest. And I walked by the MuchMusic building, and they had boarded up the windows, and I looked at them, and I just went, f***ing soft. Because when we were there, we would have had those windows open.
Mm-hmm.
We would have been doing shows about it. It wouldn't have been a new time conversation. That MuchMusic, like, our job was to make sure that kids went to bed feeling better and safer and more evolved and entertained than they got up. And we thought about that shit. Like, we actually, if a new VJ came and said something on the air that was maybe just a little bit off, you know, one of us would walk up to the VJ and just put our arms around and say, you know, listen, if you make anybody at home feel badly about who they are, you can make people feel badly about their choices or their personality, right? Like their attitude. But if you make someone feel badly just for being who they are, then you're the enemy.
Yeah.
And you don't want to, right? Your job is to fucking, I said, you're on TV. Like, this has always been my path. You guys do this with your show. If you have a platform and you can withstand, that's the slings and arrows of the public, your job is to stand at the front of the fucking line, put your arms out and take the hits so that that next crew who isn't feeling as brave or as strong or as stupid as you might be, they get time to gain their strength. And then you fall when you get old and then the next crew comes. And that really was what MuchMusic was to us. And again, I'm not mad at them today. I'm just mad at the boarding up of the windows. And I know that's not much. That's the company that owns them.
Yeah.
By the way, this is the company that owns TSN. So, I mean, but
Nice.
I'm not hating on them. They're good people there. I'm just saying that really fucking annoyed me that they had boarded up the windows, because I thought, worst case scenario, they're gonna torch, they're gonna break the windows down, and some shit's gonna get stolen. Worst case scenario.
That's insured.
Sure, it's insured, and your job, especially because that building has made a lot of money trading on black music over the years and black culture. Your job is to stand there. It's your job. Your job's to stand there. And I'm walking by going, how come there's nobody out here from MuchMusic with a black, not MuchMusic, sorry, it's because there is no MuchMusic the same way. I'm not mad at them. How come there's nobody from that building out here right now that isn't secure?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta fucking roll up those windows and have a conversation. And if somebody comes on camera and starts yelling and they're mad, hear their pain. Because guess what? You're now broadcasting to the rest of the country, and the rest of the country can hear somebody's pain. So instead of watching dog videos on Instagram, which I also do, it's a trusted brand. And you know, I'm saying much, but really, City TV, which started it all.
Yeah.
I got to keep my name, and everybody at Much was allowed to be ethnic, was because Moses and City TV. City rep this city, right? So I was like, City TV is fucking closed? We're closed? What are we doing? This is a watershed moment in our history. It's a great moment, not just to talk about Black Lives Matter, but to talk about what are we then going to do for our Indigenous brothers and sisters and all the missing and murdered Indigenous people. Like, this is a great opportunity to get people to give a shit, and we're going to board our windows up? We're fucking doing what now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your house, then come get my house. Come get my house. Like, I'll fight someone if I have to, but if I don't have to, I'll fight, right?
No, it's 100% true.
Yeah.
It's like one of the media outlet. It really bugged me. I'm gonna get a lot of shit from them by saying this, but I don't care because I stand by it.
You know, one thing I wish they would bring back, honestly, is Speaker's Corner.
Well, they said they're gonna now, but listen,
They're supposed to.
Digital though, and I don't think they're ready for what's gonna come.
No, they couldn't handle that. You give a person a chance. They probably charge a toonie now, but you give a person to put $2 in a slot and give them 1 minute of unfiltered time that possibly can get broadcast. Oh, they're not ready.
They're not ready.
Twitter is Speaker's Corner.
Pretty much there.
Yeah, the free Speaker's Corner. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Sorry, God, I cut you off. Sorry.
I was gonna say really quick too. Like you're saying about VJs, me as a young black kid, like not really knowing which path to take. When you guys did like VJ search, that was important to me. Like I sent out VJ videos and stuff like that, trying to become a MuchMusic VJ because like I was like, this is dope. This is for the culture, fam. And yeah, like come on, man. Much needs to come back.
Well, and also think about this, and I'm sure you have, and we saw that's Hal Johnson's story come out today. If you're a young black kid and you want to be on TV, who's going to put you on TV? Your only hope was Much Your City. Because they got a sports guy, maybe, one local news guy, but they made him do sports, maybe, right? So where were you going to go? Much was a place where Master T told me the story. Have you had Tony on here?
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's coming.
After he sees this, he's gonna have to collaborate some facts.
He is man, but he told me the story. I'll let him tell it, but look, he wasn't sure about coming on Much, and then Moses Neimer basically said, "You got locks. Just go out there and you have your locks." Like that's a statement alone. To be here. You don't have to come on TV and change the way you look. Be you. Cleft palate, right? The hair lip, and Tony's. When I'll tell you this, when I got to MuchMusic, the only thing I cared about was Tony's. I wanted people to like me, but I cared about Tony's respect because that guy had the hardest job in all of TV in Canada, hands fucking down. You know, because you know how now there's a lot of hip hop voices and conversations.
Yeah.
There was just one, the mix.
Extend the mix first.
Extend the mix,
Yeah.
So there's college radio, but on TV, it's just Master T.
Master T is the man. He's the GOAT.
GOAT. And guys like me and Rick, we knew Master T was the fucking GOAT. And everything was about. And just a little while ago, I went to this event in New York, and Lauryn Hill was there.
Nice.
And I said,
one of my favorite.
I'll say what she said. It's a good name drop because it's not about me. She said, Tony, I love that brother. I love that man. How is he? I said, Tony's great. She's like, man, please give him. Lauryn Hill respects Master T on all levels. And if Lauryn Hill respects, you know. So, yeah, Master T was the only guy that I remember sitting there going, that's the footsteps. That's the guy. That's the person I want to follow in the step up.
Yeah, Master T.
I think you did a good job.
Today's Tupac's birthday, and Master T's got one of the last Tupac moments on tape. Right?
That is facts.
I'm gonna have to pull that up for that.
Happy birthday, Tupac.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Tupac. Let's just shoot that out there.
Straight up.
You gotta check the story. I'm so sorry for doing a name drop, but it's relevant.
No. Name drop all you want. We want those.
We like those.
Yeah.
I went to Dr. Mya Angelou's home to do an interview with her, one of her last interviews before she passed. And I asked her what it was like being on set of Poetic Justice. About Tupac getting into a fight on set and how she calmed him down. And it's a really, and she said she didn't even know who Tupac was versus Six Pack. That's what she said. Trying to calm him down. And hearing Mya Angelou talk about Tupac, and then Janet Jackson runs up to her and said, "Oh my God," because Janet was afraid of Tupac. Said, "Oh my God, you talk." And hearing Mya Angelou talk, because Mya saw in Tupac in that moment that there was something more than the guy that we had seen to that point. You know, that he could have gone on to be, you know, had he lived, something else.
Oh man,
Tupac.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite like interview, because you've done so many, and like so many, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Jackie Chan, like do you have a favorite?
Jackie Chan, when he told me a story about what it was like to get beat up by Bruce Lee, because
great.
Whoa, you need to drop that story, please.
Watch the interview.
I seen a clip from him singing in the interview.
So it's in that interview where he talks about how he was in a movie with Bruce Lee, and Bruce Lee cracked his rib, and Bruce kept checking in on him. Are you okay? And Jackie kept pretending to be hurt so that Bruce was coming up to him. You know, because I'm born in '72, so Bruce Lee is he's my GOAT. Bruce Lee's my GOAT of all. Bruce, then Michael Jordan, and then George Carlin. So Bruce Lee.
George Carlin's amazing.
George Carlin, oh my God. If anybody's bored and you haven't seen George Carlin's The American Dream speech on YouTube, everybody needs to watch that. It's a big big wake up call. But so you know what, Michael J. Fox is a legend because Michael J. Fox is a philosopher. Talking to him really gets me. It's hard. I get all emotional in the interview. I'm just trying to keep it together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the ones that I remember a lot. Every time I interviewed Margaret Atwood, you know, and another one because he's in the news a lot. The two artists in the news a lot are Angela Davis and Cornel West. So Cornel West used to come on the show, and he's amazing. I love him. I used to read. I bought my first Cornel West book when I was in grade 7 because it was at a garage sale for sale, and I was listening to a lot of PE at the time, so it all kind of worked together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Cornel West brings me a kind of joy, and Michael J. Fox, the two of them bring me a kind of joy that I can't. It's hard to put into words what it's like to be in their company. That you speak about electric, they're electric.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Last couple questions that we have here. We ask all our guests this question when it comes to the city, and you've been around, you've lived in different areas that have been like crazy areas, right? And with the way that our city has become a crazy city with the gun violence, what do you think that we can do to bring it down moving forward? I know it's never going to end, but how can we bring it down?
I mean, I think, you know, it's funny. The only thing my father ever taught me how to do before my folks split up, he only ever taught me one thing when I was like 4 or 5 years old was how to clean. That's the only thing I ever learned how to do from my dad. Mm-hmm. Just because guns were around all the time, right? Well, honestly, if you wanna fix it, like really, if we're a real talk, fix it. You have to address the root causes of poverty and inequality because that's the only way. And honestly, like that's the only way. People want to reduce crime, but the problem with their thinking is that they think of it as a justice issue, mm-hmm. but it's actually an economic issue and it's a healthcare issue.
So a lot of underlying issues.
All of them. And you know what? That you will see miraculously how all that other stuff will go. It won't all go away, like you said, but it'll get reduced. People need access to jobs, but those jobs have to pay a living wage. They have to have the right kind of hours. There has to be a daycare set up. So if you have kids, my mom had 3 jobs. So when she was raising me, she delivered the newspaper in the morning. Mm. Then she worked right by the airport in this really great restaurant where she would like a fry cook in the back. And then she would take temp jobs everywhere. So I don't know if you know in Rexdale, the Albion Mall. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Albion Mall, my mom used to take me in the morning because she couldn't afford a babysitter, drop me off in the library and tell me, just go read. And I'd ask the librarians not to let me leave. Then she'd pick me up at noon, take me down the street to an old folks home, and she'd say, go in there, find somebody who's alone, and keep them company, because that's your job as a person, is to listen to people mm-hmm. And be good company, and I'll come get you after work. So, wow. And I'm glad for that experience, but my mom should never have been in that position, right?
No.
It's an impossible situation when you're fucking poor, and you know that the system isn't broken, it's designed to keep you poor. And I'm not one of those, like, I'm a big believer in the fact that the church is also designed to keep you poor. Right. So I've been hyper critical of, because, you know, I said this to my mom because she's Christian. You know, when they keep telling you your reward's in heaven, what they're saying is don't fight for your reward now, right? Mm-hmm. Keeping you poor if you keep waiting for heaven, right? When we should be burning shit now.
Yeah.
And if you don't address, because gun violence comes from what?
Poverty.
Kids, pride, money, opportunity.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Pride, money, opportunity. You're always going to have stupid moments and flare-ups. There will always be people who do things. But what if these kids who have this voice in their head, this negative thing that's driving them deeper and darker, like a lot of us feel, what if there was a mental health culture where they were able to understand that better? Mm-hmm. You know, and maybe, like, we're not going to fix everything, but if you can keep one guy alive, I look at all these harm reduction centers, you know, these safe injection sites. We need more of them because you could save, in Vancouver in the last couple of years, I think they saved like 3,000 lives. Mm-hmm. That's 3,000.
Even the ones they had in Moss Park and around the city, the unsanctioned ones, even the numbers they're saying, the people that they saved.
Totally. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to, so sorry for my long-winded answer, but I think you have to be holistic, right, to address all these root causes to reduce things like, because look, nobody fucking wants to point a gun at somebody or get a gun point. I mean, some do, but I've had it. I've had guns pointed at me. I don't love it. but I'm like, why is this so normalized for me? I'm like, oh, I know why it's normal. It shouldn't be fucking normalized for me, but it is normalized for me because of where I grew up. And it shouldn't be normalized for me. I just got lucky that there was luck, privilege, and the grace of others that got me on a path where I could go to the media. But without that, what is my life turning to, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's how you take the gun violence down. If you give, and it's like all these conservatives, they're so fucking annoying too because they're inconsistent. I love that mask. They're so inconsistent. They approach their business model the opposite of how they approach their city. They say they want a person with business experience to run a country, but if they really did that, the business person would look at where are the root causes of our problems. Let's address them.
Address them and fix them.
Jobs, poverty, make the education system better, make it more equitable, teach kids about residential schools, help get people off the streets, find ways, like we have all these condos going up, how much of them are affordable housing? Well, that. The city's going to suck if people can't live here, if they can't afford it.
Yeah.
If we lose the spirit of this city. So that's what we got to do. And I think then you worry about gun violence. But right now to just try to get guns out of people's hands, sure, but that's the fucking Band-Aid. That's a Band-Aid.
Band-Aid solution, yeah.
That's not fixing why people are, in this situation to begin with.
Yeah.
For the most.
You got to dig to the root.
To the root.
So.
It's like you said earlier, the root.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like the fact that most of the government approaches is, I think, morally bankrupt. But I also just don't respect how intellectually bankrupt it is too, right? If there is a way to do this, and it can be done, and make tough decisions, and the voting public has to, like when people go, oh, don't protest and down my street because I didn't do anything. Yeah, you did. You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
That's doing. So everybody's fucking guilty of it. So anyway, that's what I would think.
For people like us who are just starting in this media game, and then there's people who are just looking from the outside who are trying to get into the media game. For you as a vet, what advice can you give?
It's this word that everybody uses, but it's so true, man. If you can be authentic, you will cut through 60% of your competition, maybe 80% of your competition. If you have the resolve to do it, you will cut through another 20, 25% of the competition. Now you're in the top 10%, right? Just by being authentic and just by having your resolve. That's now you're in the top 10%.
Right.
The rest is going to be luck, of course, and opportunity. But it's about how much work you put into it and how clever you are. But really, the key to that is you don't know everything, you can't do everything. So it's who is your family, the people you partner with who can fill in the blanks that you don't have, right? And you can fill in the blank. That's the key. So for me, as I've had such a very lucky, successful. I've been lucky in my career. I've been very lucky, but a lot of it is it's a testament to my friends and them helping me and me helping them, and we all came up together. We started together, right? And that's really important. Know what you don't know. And find people who know it. Learn it. Help them. It's a different game than when I started. Now people are chasing clout, and that's fine. But clout chasing is in 10 minutes long. You will not be any.
Ooh, that's the title. Sorry to cut you off.
You will not be. You will not be in this job at 50 if you chase clout at 30, right? Because this is your foundation. So pour your foundation right. What do you know? What is your unique take? Pour your foundation. What don't you know? Figure it out. Then build that next floor. Everybody, right? But now it's so easy to get paid if you have 1 million followers. And I don't disrespect it because get your money.
Yeah.
But I was always interested in long-term money. How do you make money forever and feel good about what you're doing? Recognize that it is different, but authentic is number one. And also, if you can be really outspoken, but not pick the low-hanging fruit, do the easy, lowest common denominator shit, people will take you more seriously, at a certain point.
Yeah.
So, look, I love the Tekashi 6ix9ine memes as much as anybody. But I watch all the cats doing it, and I'm just like, okay, it's good, it's funny, I like it. But if that's, and you should do it. But if that's all you got, when your audience grows up, where will they go?
Yeah.
Going with them, and you're going to be older a lot longer than you're young. You know, once you're like 35 and up, you ain't 24. You know, and you're going to be that for a long time.
Facts.
So investment for this. So don't worry too much about the flash now. It's all about fucking planning for this. You know. Also, you never had. You have this, like Zoom. It's practice. That's the other thing, right? It's just practice. You can practice every day with a show. I'll tell you, when I was starting at the Fan, there was no internet. It was just starting. I didn't even own a computer. On my day off, I would go to the radio station into a production studio. I'd wait till like 8 o'clock. I would wait for the guy in the other radio station to go have a cigarette. Then I would go run in the studio. I'd steal his playlist, photocopy it, replace it. I'd steal a bunch of CDs, go back, borrow. I'd go back into my room. I'd wait to the top of the hour, and then I would fake a show. I would practice for nobody every day. You can do this now on this shit. That's the other secret I would say is practice, because most people, once they get a whiff of fame or notoriety, or they get recognized a couple of times, they think that's the end of it. And if The Last Dance has taught us anything, is that you will collapse in exhaustion after your last game, even if it's 20 years later. You know what I mean? Or 15 years later. So it's fucking work ethic. And then after all that, it may not even work out because you didn't get the breaks. Right? But you'll like the person you've become, because you wouldn't have chased something, you'll have earned something else. And I know that sounds a bit too philosophical, but I worked in my college class. I think 4 of us got jobs, and I think maybe 3 or 4 are working now out of the 80. That's a pretty low number. Wow. And I never want any of the people, even for myself, if the career didn't go the way I wanted, I never wanted to look back as if I failed shit, because there's no such thing as failure. It just didn't go that way, but I opened these doors. So I would really recommend putting really positive shit into your fucking subconscious, because there are a million obstacles. You have more, obstacles being black than I did. You have way more. So with all those obstacles in front of us and more for you, don't be an obstacle yourself, because you're going to fucking collapse if you don't give yourself the permission to grow. And that's my big advice, is feed your subconscious the right shit. One of those interviews that I had a U2 interview that went well. I had an interview with a social activist called June Colloway that went well. So your career, you'll do a bunch of things, but there will only be like a handful of things that people remember you for. Yep. Remember me for. Those interviews went the way they did because of the work I did 20 years before that. You never know when this thing is just going to pop into your subconscious and you're going to use it, and then someone's going to hear it and go, that's the guy, that's the woman, we want them. What happened to me? It was all the work you put in beforehand just to make that one moment, so that's, I know I'm all over the place, but that's really how
that's good advice. It's good advice.
Very good advice.
Be positive, but don't be like overly positive all the time. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Know your worth. That's another thing. Know your worth.
Know your worth.
Know your worth.
Yeah, man.
There you go.
George.
Getting some gems.
Yeah, man. George Stroumboulopoulos in the motherfucking building. Yo, I really, really want to thank you. Like, we really appreciate this. This is like a monumental moment for the We Love Hip Hop podcast and the network. You know what I'm saying?